Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could you please stand and salute the flag with me? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we do have a few. Item 2.1 on the regular agenda is going to be pulled. Item 4.2 needs to be moved up to be right before the awards presentations, appointments, and proclamations. And then we have a special city council agenda, and that will run concurrent with the regular meeting if we can add it as item 5.11, if we can take it as item 5.11.
Okay. Would council like to accept this agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson?
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez?
Aye.
Councilman Horn?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Ramsey?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, yes. Sorry about that. So this one's next? Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll go to public hearings. This one. Okay, public hearing number 1 regarding public input to the redrawing of district boundaries. Marissa?
Thank you. So on Zoom, we do have the demographer that we've hired, Dave Ely, and so he is on the line and can sort of go over the process. And then once he's done, we'll need to open the public hearing.
Hi, this is Dave Ely. I will share my screen so I can do the PowerPoint.
Okay, we can hear you real good, Dave. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think that I'm being allowed to share my screen.
Okay, we'll fix that in just a second.
It should be fixed.
Okay, you should be okay now. Go ahead and try it now.
All right. Everyone see that okay?
Yeah, yes.
All right. So basically, the city council redistricting is governed by kind of a hierarchy of rules, the highest of which, of course, is the U.S. Constitution, the Federal Voting Rights Act, the California Constitution, and the California Elections Code have more specific controls, and then case law kind of is interpretation of all those laws that do it. And I'll talk a little bit about some of these things, but not in any great detail. The primary federal law is that each of the districts need to be as close to equal population as is practical, and a deviation of less than 10% is presumptively valid. A 10% deviation would mean that the most populous district is the difference between the most populous district and the least populous district is less than 10% of the ideal size of the district, and the ideal size of the district is the total jurisdiction's population divided by the number of districts. In addition to that, the council districts must be drawn in a way that comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, but they must also, they're also covered by the Equal Protection Clause, which two things are a little bit in conflict in a sense, or at least create a tension, because a consideration of race is necessary to ensure compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act, but council districts should not be drawn with race as a predominant factor. So we have to look at race as we're looking at this. We have to make sure that we're not diluting anyone's votes, but at the same time, we have to consider a lot of other things as well, and race can't be the sole factor that determining things. Oh, sorry. If I can just get it to move one slide at a time. Yeah, the elections code now has some very specific things in them that were added in what's called the Fair Maps Act. And we have these five rules, in a sense, that are in order of priority. So all of the districts have to be geographically contiguous to the extent that the jurisdiction is geographically contiguous. In the case of the city, we have two pieces that are not contiguous. And so they are, they will have to be in a district that's not contiguous, but to the extent that it's possible, all districts have to be contiguous. It can only be, one area and not several separated areas within the primary boundaries of the city. The second criteria is that neighborhoods and communities of interest should be kept together for purposes of fair representation. I'll talk a little bit more about what communities of interest are later. The third criteria is that you should have easily identifiable boundaries, so that a person who's familiar with the city could look at council district map and know what district they lived in or what district different areas are in, without having to have a magnifying glass and follow squiggly lines all over the place. The fourth is kind of related to the third, but the districts should be compact, so you don't bypass one group of people to get to more distant group of people. But it should be noted that as these are in order of priority, you can have some non-compactness in a district for the purpose of uniting a community of interest that may not be particularly compact. And so you may bypass one group of dissimilar people to include a more distant group of people who share a community of interest. And so it's not an absolute prohibition on that, but it is a criteria to follow once the others have been met. And then the fifth thing is also sort of an absolute, that you can't do anything to either favor or discriminate against a political party. Some examples of neighborhoods and communities of interest that we're supposed to keep together. The first, obviously, is just neighborhoods that people recognize. But we also need to look at communities of interest that are based on common representational interests. And so that can relate to land use patterns, cultural and language characteristics, income level, educational background, employment and economic patterns, crime, schools. There can be a lot of things. And some of this can be derived from data, looking at census data, but what we really want is to have members of the public share their opinions of what the communities are and what sorts of characteristics we should be focused on in drawing these maps. This is a chart that shows the population from the census, as well as some data from the American Community Survey. that has different characteristics for the districts as they exist now. As I said earlier, the districts need to have a maximum deviation of 10% from the highest to the lowest. And the district populations from the 2020 census show a much greater deviation than that, partially because the districts are quite small, so the amount of deviation isn't that great, but as a percentage it is, so it's close to 40% between District 3 and District 1. So that's what this process is going to have to fix. So District 1 will need to pick up population. Districts 2 and 4 will also need to pick up some population, not to the same extent. And then Districts 3 and 5 will need to give up significant population. We have the race data that's here because that's necessary to, well, it's actually required on the Fair Maps Act that this kind of data be published for any draft maps that we look at. We're not allowed to look at draft maps until after the second of the hearings that we have. But this is the kind of data that we're going to look at for draft districts as well. And this is just for the current district. I'm not going to go through the details of this chart, but if people have questions about it later, we can discuss it. This is a map showing the current council districts. So District 5 has the discontiguous pieces. I guess there's 3 of them instead of 2, like I said. And District 5 is quite overpopulated. District 3 is the other district that is overpopulated. It appears that the population growth in south of Jane Avenue is significantly higher than the city as a whole. And although we drew these districts just a few years ago, they were based on 2020 census when we did it. So these are changes that have occurred since 2010, rather than since we drew these districts originally. And then we have a process that will include these 4 public hearings. Tonight's the first one. And so hopefully we get some input from the public about the process. There will also be the second public hearing on March 3rd. And again, we need to have, well, no, excuse me, I'm misstating, remembering the rules from last time. At that public hearing, we can have, we can show potential draft maps, things that we collect from the public between now and then. And so hopefully at that hearing, the council can give some direction to myself and to staff about creating a draft map or multiple draft maps that will be shown at the following hearings. And so on March 17th, I believe it's the 17th, we'll have the third public hearing for public input. And at that hearing, hopefully the council can give instructions to staff and to myself so that at the fourth public hearing, we can have a draft map in the form of a resolution that can be adopted at that time. And so that's the public process that we're planning. And the thing that is important to note is that for the public, they can submit comments at any of these hearings, but they can also submit things in writing or paper maps, that sort of thing. to the city clerk's office, and the contact information is shown here on the slide, and will also be on the city's website. So that's my presentation. I will be happy to answer questions if people have them.
Okay, is there any questions from the council? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing right now, so it can be on record. Is there anybody who would like to state anything on the public hearing? Okay, not seeing anything, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And thank you very much for your input.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we'll go to a certificate of appreciation for Kenny Smith Jr. And Adam's going to run this one for us. Kenny, could you meet him up there?
All right, so I'm very happy to present this to Kenny Smith. The certificate says the City of Kalinga is proud to present the certificate of appreciation to Kenneth Kenny Smith Jr. in recognition of his initiative and efforts to help beautify the City of Kalinga and the surrounding areas through numerous organized community cleanup events. I'd like to just say that this shows the power of the individual here in Kalinga, how one person can take an idea, he can start it on his own, and it turn into something very big and very huge like it is right now. I mean, when you look at everything that Kenny's done and the people who've helped him, and Ruth is over here too, how many tons of trash do you think you've removed out of there?
That's funny. I asked the guy in the yard today. He said probably about 150 yards of trash.
Jeez.
And that's just trash. That's not counting the appliances
Right.
we've gotten in tires and oil.
So we see what one person can do, and each person in Kalinga can start something like this. And I'm just really happy to present this to Kenny, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and
Thank you.
much appreciated, man.
I really appreciate it, man.
All right, there you
Thank
go.
you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Councilman Atkinson, you guys should get a picture for the paper. Sorry to interrupt. I've got one. I've already taken one, but can you get in front of me? Or you, yeah, that's fine. Oh, that's a good one right there. Oh, okay. Oh, we got a tweaker. Oh, wait, one more time, unless you want to be in there.
I just want a picture.
Yeah, you want to come up there with them? Because you're helping this.
You guys send a picture of me though.
I got you right when you were sneaking in there.
Oh, wait.
Okay, there. All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for all the stuff you're doing. When's your next date? Do you have another date?
Oh, yeah, Saturday.
This Saturday?
This Saturday.
At what time?
It's going to be a big one. We're going to go out at 8. We're going to meet up at Kalinga Elks Lodge.
Kalinga Elks Lodge at 8 o'clock on Saturday.
The more
Okay.
the merrier.
Okay, well, thank you. Should they bring anything?
Just maybe some work gloves, safety gloves. I do have some on hand if someone needs some, but whatever, we got everything else under control.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. And in accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for a follow-up report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk by 5 o'clock on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included into the record. However, they will not be read. Is there anybody who'd like to come up? Nathan?
Mayor and council, I know this may not be in your jurisdictional to be able to fix this, but I do know that the mayor attends COG, and if you guys could talk to the county about the I-5 area, it looks horrible. I mean, it is bad, and people think that that's Kalinga. They do.
On trash-wise, or are you talking about that?
I'm talking about all of the buildings that have all of the graffiti all over them, and it just looks really bad. And I know this isn't your guys' fault, and it's not even your jurisdiction, but I know you have a voice, and so I just it'd be nice if you guys could address that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you guys very much. Okay, we'll go to another public hearing. Council consideration and adoption of the Kalinga 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Continuancy Plan. Larry Miller?
Hello, everyone. So this is the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. If you remember recently, we just finished the 2015. We were a little bit behind. We're a few months behind on this one, but after this, we'll be all done for 5 years, so that'll be nice. So if you're not aware of what the Urban Water Management Plan is, it's basically just, it is a legal document required by the state for things like funding sources, that kind of thing, but it shows what your projected water use is in a certain time frame. I believe this one goes out to 2040. And then it ensures that you're in compliance of the Water Conservation Act of 2009, which we are, so that's good. Paired with this is the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. This is something that was added to the requirement. And essentially what this is just a plan, right? Like if you reach a certain threshold of, you have half of your allotment, or you have, like whatever range, it says, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that. And then it would attempt to like outline what that impact may be. Most of the things in that are stuff that like we already do. Like if it's a low water year, hey, let's just go back to 2 days a week watering. If it's a regular water year, water all that you want, essentially. And then if it's really bad, stage 3, no outside watering, that kind of thing. That's basically it. So this
And
is
what stage are we in right now?
2.5.
2.5, okay.
So yeah, you still have the ability to, make those all. You don't have to follow the plan strictly. You can do exactly as you have been doing, and say, well, we want to be somewhere here, which isn't quite a 3. So, like I said, this is a public hearing, so I'm happy to, help answer anything.
Okay. Anything from council? Okay, we're going to go ahead and open this public hearing. Anybody who'd like to talk on this and be in the public record? Nathan?
Nathan Vosberg, District 3. I think that it is imperative that we spend some of our ARPA funds, if it's possible, or water conservation funds, if we can get it, to install those meters that I had installed on my house. The amount of conservation is amazing with one of those meters. I was, leaking about, I'd say 3 gallons an hour, and I had no clue. I had no idea that was happening. And I'm sure tons of people in this town have the exact same thing. And if we could stop those leaks around, we could actually increase our water usage and have more water available for other things that we all like green spaces and things like that. And I think that if the city could somehow put some money and investment into that, I know that it was a working trial program and that there's probably an intent to move forward with that, but I would love to see that built into something like this as well, and to actually spend some money on it. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would, would volunteer. I don't know how many volunteered the first time, but if we did a really good job at putting out that information and showing them what it could look like on your bill. It made a huge difference on my bill, like $20, $30 a month. Take that times 12 months, that's a huge savings, plus it's a savings to the city. So I'm all in favor of, this contingency plan, and then also if we could, add some things to it in order to save water for the residents, I think that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to add anything onto that, to what he just said?
Yeah, go ahead, if you want on the public record.
Sure, sure. I just really quick, there is already plans in place, funding that has been applied for to get more of those meters. I believe there is also one of the items for the ARPA funds, potentially. I did a study on it. I found the best zone to install those, that would have the most impact, and also be the most logical. So yeah, things are already happening.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to be on the record? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Sean, do you need them to vote, since it's adoption of it?
Yes.
Yes, we will have to have them approve it.
Okay, what would you guys like to do?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Is there a motion? Is there a
I'll second it.
There's a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Atkinson,
Yes.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Thank you. And thank you for your input. Okay, now, next we'll go to the consent calendar. We actually have 11 because we brought one from the special meeting. Councilman Horn would like to pull number 3 and have it voted on itself because he might have a conflict of interest on it. He conceives it a conflict, but so we're going to go ahead and do that one by itself if we could. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Horn, on that? Okay. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion or anything? Or would you like to talk about it and pull it? Or is there anything else you'd like to pull? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay. Can we vote for everything except for number 3, and then we'll go back to that, and so Mr. Warren can abstain. Okay. I'd like to accept the motion. Do we have it?
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Okay, next we'll go to item number 3. Approve the municipal solid waste franchise agreement of refuge rates increases and adopt resolution 4063 approving the new refuge rates effective July 1st, 2022. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, it's been motioned. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton,
Aye.
Councilman Horn. Abstain. Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item number 6, ordinance presentation, discussion on potential action items. Number 1, discussion, direction of potential action regarding Reserve Police Officer Program and adopt Resolution 4067, amending the police officer's reserve job. Descriptions and adopt Resolution 4068, approving the Reserve Police Pay Scale. Jose Garza? our
Good
chief.
evening, Mayor, council, staff, and public. Under the recommendation, I'm requesting approval from council to add 4 paid part-time reserve police officers. And this was also recommended by the city manager. And some of the background, in the past, the department has had paid reserve officers to help with support, for example, in handling calls for service, transporting prisoners to the Fresno County Jail, with special operations, and also with community events. However, over the past years, those positions are just kind of faded out due to budgetary constraints on the background. On discussion, the department would like to add 4 paid reserve police officer positions because it really would help reduce the overtime that is currently occurring right now with the full-time officers due to staffing issues. It would enhance officer safety by adding more officers onto patrol. And the big thing, it would definitely give the department the resource to have, if a vacancy comes available, these officers are trained, they've gone through the training program, so they would fill one of those positions without disrupting the services of the public. So that's very positive to have. And it's a minimal cost. It's a position of an A-step police officer, pay level, and the position would be limited to 960 hours per fiscal year. This is unbudgeted and would impact the general fund. However, the cost of the current fiscal year will likely be offset by full-time salaries from vacant positions, as well as potentially reducing overtime expenses. To have a reserve program within the police department is a very vital component. So I asked for council support and approval so the chief could help the chief build the department to better serve the public. Thank you.
Any questions for the chief?
Can you tell me again how many hours they can work a month?
Well, they could work part-time all the way till 960 hours a year, so it could be, varies from 19 hours. It depends on their schedule, because most of them are full-time employees somewhere. So most of them work on weekends, maybe one day. So it changes. Not necessarily that they're going to be working the entire 960 hours, but that's an ideal to have for that could do that, but most likely it's going to be a lot less than that. So I really can't give you exact hours because it changes.
Okay. And has there been any interest? Do you know at all?
That I know of, no. Right now, we're dealing, trying to fill the vacancies with sworn officers. But this would really give us an opportunity, if approved, to get that interest to come over here. And because most of them that come over here and want to be reserve officers, for some reason they can't get picked up for other departments, or but most of them want to be officers, but they have to prove themselves. So while they're here, they prove themselves, and we're able to select the best from that group. So it's a really good recruitment area to do that.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience?
I have one. Did we remove that? Oh, no, that was fire. That had the certain mileage radius where they had to live for their reserves. Is that right?
Correct. So we don't have a mileage requirement for reserves for the police department.
Yeah. Was there any questions from the audience? Okay. Council, what would you like to do?
I got a quick question. Doing the quick numbers, how much money is it actually going to save having a reserve in there or multiple reserves in there versus all the overtime that's actually being accrued right now?
Well, right now, there's a lot of overtime that's being accrued right now. So if we had reserve officers, which are fully trained to handle calls themselves, it would relieve those officers from having to be mandatory overtime. The exact amount and cost, I can't give that to you.
So just whatever the halftime, depending on what the pay is, would actually be less to bring on the reserves and actually cover some of the shifts, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve this item for reserve officers.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton.
Before I say yea or nay, Chief, we just put you in there last week. Last week.
So wait,
But aye.
thank you.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. And I hope we're going to put out the word as soon as possible then. Okay. Next, we have announcements, I think, right? Am I still on track? Okay. Because we switched a lot of stuff around today. City managers' announcements?
I have none.
Council members?
I was out there with Mr. Smith, helping out, and is there any way that the city could, I don't know what we could do, like give them gloves, safety, PPE, There's a lot of needles out there. A lot. There's from chemical, you name it, any chemical there is, and you could probably find it. You know.
So we can discuss that separately, but we can't discuss it here because it wasn't agendized.
Okay, yeah. We could do a future agenda, maybe something like that, yeah, because, I mean, we get there and there's grass burning, logs burning on the creek, still. And I guess one of them has been burning for already 3 weeks. So, you know, and it is, you know, kids do go through there and would hate for something like that to happen, and, I mean, man, we loaded a trailer full of appliances? A lot. It just, I mean, and that's just a little section. So I could just imagine, but I would like to see, you know, even push Fresno County to do something.
Yeah, we'll have to get a hold of them and
Yeah.
ask them. Are they taking the refrigerators and stuff too? They are, okay, that's good. I know that they really don't want the tires because that's really a problem.
But there's American Wheels and Tires have been taking the tires for us too.
Oh, okay, great.
So that O'Reilly's takes our oil, all at no cost, so.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, any other council members?
Just got a real quick shout out to the Kalinga High School varsity basketball team who won, and they should be playing in Bakersfield Friday for their next step. Congratulations, hope they do well out there.
Okay, I just want to reiterate, everybody go out and help, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kenny out there. I'm thinking about your dad, and I'm thinking your dad's name's Kenny. Yeah, I know, exactly. Okay, but, and 8 o'clock at the Elks, right?
8 o'clock at the Elks.
Okay.
Saturday.
On Saturday. Okay, any future agenda items?
Yeah, we recently redid Sunset, and it's starting to look like garbage. There's weeds growing everywhere, especially where we put the planter boxes or whatever they're called, where it's full of wood chips or whatever they're supposed to be. You can't even barely see the wood chips anymore. It's just full of weeds. So I'd like to see a plan of action on how we're going to tackle that and possibly put in shrubs or something in its place. And I don't want to wait a year to do it. So if that's what you're going to say, no, we're not going to wait a year. So I'd like to see that taken care of and very, very soon because it looks like garbage. You're going to say something.
We're interviewing groundskeepers, next week or in a week?
I think it's Thursday of next
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to make sure that we're just not going out there to pull weeds. We're actually going to put stuff in there.
We don't have irrigation, so, but we can
Well,
look
then,
into it. See what we can
maybe
do.
cover it back with cement, because what's the point of having it if we're not going to put anything in it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. We can
Except
look into
weeds. Second, other cities have done this before. I don't know if this needs to be an ordinance or not, but they have taken gang members and they have put restraining orders on them for their city, particularly very problematic gang members, and like us to develop something very similar to that, if possible. Particularly to the ones who do the shootings, especially the 2 that we arrested recently. It'd be nice to slap a restraining order on them, not allowing them back in the city, especially if they get back out on bail. And the one guy was already arrested with already waiting on charges for carrying a firearm in public. So I would imagine he'd come back and try and do the same thing.
That came up one time before, and we had a little bit of problem with it, but I think we should redo that too, yeah. Anybody else?
I'd like to put a future agenda for discussing PPE for volunteers, including snake traps. It's going to get warmer, and we're going to see snakes out there with them. I hate to see anybody get injured. Also, a future agenda, maybe, I don't know, Mr. Warren, Mr. Atkinson could, about the dog park. I went to the Park and Rec meeting. They're not even thinking about a dog park. So
is your future agenda item for the city to explore developing its own dog park?
Other
Yes.
options, yeah. Okay. Okay, my future agenda item is, we have some national champions here in Kalinga now with the girls cheerleading, And I'd like to bring them here and give them certificates, and also bring the high school girls here too, because now they're Valley champions too also. So I don't know how far they go, but they're going right now too. So we're going to try to get all the names together and bring them back in and acknowledge them.
Can we add the junior Oilers? They've been two-time undefeated champions.
Well, that's
Yeah. The not only the cheerleaders, but the football players as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say we can add whoever you guys would like to add, but in order to have it on the next agenda for March 3rd,
We need the.
I need their names before 10 a.m. Wednesday of next week.
Okay, sounds good.
And we're working on that already, so. Okay, any other things? Okay, we don't have any closed session.
We have one.
Oh, we do, okay, on this one. Do we anticipate any, anything out of it? Okay, we might have something to report. Okay, well, going then with that, we adjourned.